and welcome to the newest and first edition of 2020 of SecondsOut FLEXpectations. We've had a little break, well deserved, well earned, but now we're back and we're looking ahead to 2020. There's not massive boxing action going on this weekend, so I'm going to take a look at the British fighters that should fight on the world scene in 2020. And I'll be going from the heavyweight division downwards. I'm bound to miss some people out, so try not to be too harsh in your comments. I know that's, like asking a bear not to defecate in the woods, but if you can, try and be a bit nicer in the YouTube comments if I miss a few of your favourites out, because I'm not going to remember everyone. I did think about doing it like a bit of a blank verse or rhyming couplets or something like that, but it's going to be hard enough remembering all the people I need to remember. And besides, when Ratman did it, he sat on the fence with Fury Wilder in his 2018 wrap-up, and I didn't like that at all. So I'm not going to emulate it. A big fan, though I am, of Shiro's story. Moving on, gone off on a bit of a tangent. We'll start at the very top, both figuratively and literally, with AJ, of course, in the heavyweight division. He's now got to defend his unified world titles against one of his two mandatories next, either Kubrat Pulev for the IBF or Alexander Usyk for the WBO, although it's felt that with Usyk being a fellow matchroom fighter and perhaps wanting another fight at heavyweight to acclimatise himself before challenging AJ, he may be persuaded to wait, and Pulev may be accommodated first at Tottenham Hotspur's football stadium sometime in the spring, so that'll be interesting. But before that, we've obviously got Tyson Fury going into his big rematch with Deontay Wilder. I hope and I think, if I'm pushed, I'm not going to do a rat man and sit on the fence. I think Fury will win the rematch. I think he's got more room for improvement from the first fight, which he was unlucky not to win in the first place. I think he should win that. And then we can all hope towards the end of next year or the beginning of 2021, perhaps an all-British super fight between AJ and Fury for all the belts. I'd love to see that. You've also got Dillian Whyte, who's just come back in December against Marius Vac. Hard-earned victory there for him. He's looking to get back into the mix again in April. Eddie Hearn's mentioned the likes of Andy Ruiz Jr., who put in that abject display to lose his belts back to AJ in December, of course, and Alexander Povetkin, who equally wasn't particularly impressive in his draw with Michael Hunter in December. Actually put in an article about Dillian Whyte's options on SecondsOut.com tomorrow, so have a look at that. But he will be right back in the mix. And if he can't get a world title shot in 2020, when will he? He's been waiting long enough. I think we can all agree on that much. So we'll see what happens. We'll also look to the progression of the likes of Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois, who could be heading for a domestic showdown of their own in the summer. And that will be really interesting, because whoever wins that will go on unequivocally to the world scene. Down at cruiserweight, Lawrence Okolie should be fighting for a world title in his next fight, vacant WBO belt against Krzysztof Glowacki. Really interesting fight. I'd slightly favour Okolie as the younger, fresher guy, bigger puncher. But Glowacki's no mug, very good fighter in his own right. And if Okolie has to travel, that might even the odds somewhat. I think Matchroom will be looking as much as they can to get the fight over here. At light heavyweight, two guys obviously from a British perspective to watch out for, Joshua Buatsi and Anthony Yarde. Yarde suffered his first career defeat. Again, SecondsOut.com, I've written an article about 3 British fighters who've suffered their first professional loss in 2019 and how they can come back stronger in 2020. And Anthony Yarde, spoiler alert, is one of that trio. He lost to Sergei Kovalev, but there were definitely more positives than negatives from that August defeat. He was defeated in the end as much by his own exhaustion as by the wily, crafty Kovalev, and had the Russian in all sorts of trouble in round 8 before succumbing. It now looks like he'll be fighting in the spring against Maxim Vlasov in a WBO eliminator, a winnable fight, and could get another shot at the belt, especially now Canelo has given it up. As for Buatsi, it looked like he was heading towards an eventual showdown with Artur Beterbiev for the IBF belt, given the world ranking he enjoys, second only in the IBF rankings to Fan Long Meng, the mandatory challenger. But news broke last week that Beterbiev, due to his religious beliefs, may not be willing to go to China to fight Meng, whose team won the purse bids and want to stage it in his home country. If that happens and he gives up the belt or he's stripped, then it could be Buatsi against Meng for the vacant IBF title, which is a more winnable fight than the formidable Beterbiev for Buatsi. And maybe he could get at world level or acclimatise to it and then fight someone like a Beterbiev further down the line. Super middleweight, Will Billy Joe Saunders or Callum Smith, our two 168-pound title holders, get hold of Canelo, the Golden Goose, at some point in 2020? If they don't, I think it's really important that they fight each other in a unification clash. The kind of fundamental textbook skills of Smith and power against the slicker, more awkward southpaw stylings, if you like, of Billy Joe Saunders. I'd really like to watch that fight. Maybe the winner of that then gets an even stronger case to fight Canelo afterwards, or Triple G, or someone of that nature. But if they can't get the guy they both want, fight each other. You know, we want to see it. Middleweight, Liam Williams edges ever closer to a world title shot. WBO eliminator last year, or the end of last year, smashed Atlantis Fox to pieces, it's got to be said. Very much like to see him challenging either Demetrius Andrade or another world champion in 2020. As we move further down the weights, we've obviously got Kell Brook is looking to challenge at 154 pounds, although he insists he can still make welter. And also Liam Smith, former WBO champion, will be looking, he's on a run of wins now, he'll be looking to get a shot either at a world title or some sort of eliminator in the early part of next year. As for Kell Brook, he returns in February at 154 against Mark DeLuca. He's expected to win that, but then will he get a world title shot in the summer? He's coming towards the end of his career now, so we certainly hope so. And then you go down to welter, you've got Amir Khan, still around. Came back with that win over Billy Dibb, of course, after the loss to Terence Crawford. He'll be hoping for at least one more major fight. Could we finally see the fight that Adam Smith at Sky has wanted to see for years and years? Khan and Kell Brook, and obviously Smith's not the only one, a lot of fans have wanted to see it as well, and I think it still holds value, particularly in the UK market, so hopefully we get to see that. You've also got Josh Kelley, who's a hot prospect at welterweight, but got a lot of doubt has sprung up now, particularly on social media after some disappointing performances, particularly in the draw against Ray Robinson. He should fight in the spring of next year, or this year, sorry, David Avanesian, the fight that was famously called off at the end of 2018 when Kelley fell ill on fight week. Avanesian has since won the European title and looked very explosive and dominating at that level. So we look forward to seeing those two guys clash. Down at super lightweight, the main man to talk about for us is, of course, Josh Taylor. He'll find it very hard to top an outstanding 2019 in which he unified 140-pound belts, beat Regis Prograis in the biggest fight of his life, and secured the World Boxing Super Series Muhammad Ali trophy. However, if he gets to grips with Jose Ramirez, who holds the other two major belts in his division, they clash either over here or in America for all the titles, and Taylor becomes undisputed. It might just top what was an excellent 2019 for him. Lightweight, Luke Campbell looks to finally have a winnable world title opportunity after coming up against a peak Jorge Linares and then a peak Vasily Lomachenko. It looks like with Devin Haney injured and named the WBC champion in recess, Campbell has been ordered to fight Javier Fortuna of the Dominican Republic, who's no mug, really good fighter, former world champion at Super Feather. But Campbell will feel he's got the beating of his fellow southpaw, and he certainly proved competitive enough against Lomachenko to make you think he'd be the favourite to that fight. As we dip a bit lower, I expect Martin J. Ward to make waves at super featherweight. Josh Warrington at feather IBF champion, could soon be fighting against the WBO champion, hence the confusion. Shakur Stevenson in a great unification match in the UK in the summer. Can't wait to see that. What an excellent clash of styles that would be. And Kid Galahad, who narrowly fell to Warrington back in June, he's got an IBF eliminator coming up on the Kell Brook bill in February against the guy Claudio Marrero, who's a decent fighter, but Galahad will expect to beat, especially at home in Sheffield. And if he wins that, then he's right back in the mix too. Moving further down, you've got the likes of Tommy Ward. Martin Ward's his brother. But also Martin J. Ward, I should mention before we move too far down, super featherweight. He'll be hoping for a world title shot in 2020. And Tommy Ward at super bantam, who's made some waves in America, he'll also be ready for that. And then as we go right down to the smaller weights, Sonny Edwards could make a big statement in 2020. And his brother Charlie, former WBC flyweight champion, coming back at either superfly or bantamweight, will next fight hopefully soon. And Cal Yafai, who's been the flyweight champion or superfly champion, for ages, will he fight Estrada in a unification fight? We all hope so. But if not, Edwards Yafai has been talked about for a long time, and we'd like to see it. That's it from me. Put your comments below what fights you'd most like to see in 2020, which British fighters we should watch out for, who I've missed, and I'll respond to some of the better comments. I'll be back on Monday with Reflections, 4:30 p.m, and next Thursday for FLEXpectations, also 4:30 p.m. Really appreciate your time. Great to be back, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you.